With over 12 million copies sold, Elden Ring has taken the gaming world by storm, with everyone diving into the huge open world of the lands between and exploring every inch of its massive world and dungeons. Elden Ring is a shining example in a world of big-budget, cinema scene-heavy, Hollywood production-type AAA games that gamers appreciate being treated like grown-ups, to be given the freedom and the versatility to figure it out and, quite frankly, get our butts handed to us sometimes, a lot of times in my case. There are a lot of lessons to the gaming industry as a whole that Elden Ring is teaching. How many big developers and publishers are listening to the quiet tutorial on how to make an open world game though? Today, let's walk through what Elden Ring teaches the gaming industry, and we will kick it off with, we don't need our little hands held. Although Elden Ring has the best tutorial of any of the Souls games in my opinion, it can easily be passed, and it just gives you the rudimentary basics, enough to let you discover the rest of the intricacies and then leaves you alone to figure the rest out. It doesn't pester you for hours upon hours of the game, reminding you or giving you a tooltip every time you do something new. It tells the players to interpret the rest themselves. This allows for everything in Elden Ring to seem more deep and personal, and the discovery aspect as things continue to get more complicated become these moments of revelation as opposed to being handed and force-fed the information with a spoon. After a short tutorial, Elden Ring dumps the players out with very little direction, and then the player quickly starts finding their own adventures, exploring random caves and crypts, finding random open world bosses, leveling up, figuring out where to put their stat points, learning how different gear affects your speed and versatility, and so much more, that there is this instant addiction that you are getting better, you are pushing forward, you are carving out your own story, and that causes great conversations between players about what they found, what they did, how they are playing, and these stories are shared, and sometimes others try something new based on what their friend has done, and on it goes. Elden Ring isn't telling us directly how to play the game, the world is teaching us organically how to play, and we all are interpreting it in different ways, giving us the freedom we want and crave. And speaking of worlds, that brings me to my next make worlds, not cinema scenes. So too often a AAA game is released and you spend at least 50% of your time watching cutscenes and listening to hours worth of voice acting, and that is the selling point of the game. Elden Ring has cutscenes and they're beautiful, but we all spend 99% of our time actually playing Elden Ring. Who would have thought? Even the story itself is telling us the story naturally, through some interactions with NPCs and even through the world building alone at sometimes. It's mysterious. Elden Ring's world of the lands between are harsh, they're filthy, filled with creatures of nightmare fuel and grotesque twisting or mockeries of its original creation. We all feel it, we all see it, we all adapt to it. It's dark fantasy at its greatest, and this world is a place we want to dive deeper into because of it. We want to learn more, explore, and uncover its secrets. This is a world we want to be in, not because the cinema scene told us to be there, but because we learned as we play. There are so many unknowns, so much history and lore buried in Elden Ring, and finding out anything new has meaning because you found it yourself. You weren't pointed in that direction. And the world of Elden Ring is built really well. You can tell that most of their production was spent making this place, designing it and crafting it so that it could inspire exploration and spending more time in it. And Elden Ring's world is completely believable, even with how outrageous it actually is, because the world was built so cohesively. It all fits together, and one ridiculous detail matches the others, and all of this while still offering an outlandish amount of differentiators at the same time. FromSoft spent their money on building a world here, not a movie, and it shows. And speaking of money, you don't need cash ops to make buckets of money. Elden Ring is what it is. You pay your 60 buckaroos and you get the full experience. There is no additional cash op, there is no additional cosmetics, there is no heavy grind to replace real cash, and they are getting praised for it, not just in reviews and appreciation from the fan base, but in actual capital money as well. Over 12 million copies sold, over $500 million in revenue. It has absolutely blown blowing up, and that's only a few weeks deep. And they deserve it. And we as consumers don't feel ripped off. We don't feel exploited. We can feel good in our purchase, and we get buttloads of content, even beyond beating the game. It pushes us into even more content that, quite frankly, is taking the phrase above and beyond to a whole new meaning. Elden Ring is like an old school video game. You pay for it, you get it. Is that really such a hard philosophy to grasp? More copies sold, more money in the bank, less nickel and diming, and major success and the respect of the gaming community. This is how you release a game. We are sick of the nickel and dime game as a service shenanigans. We pay for the game, we get the game. Pay attention, Ubisoft, Square Enix, and practically every publisher out there. FromSoft is printing money, and we all feel free from your chains of cash shops. And speaking of freedom, freedom is appreciated. Although this ties into not hand-holding us, the freedom of Elden Ring goes further than the no tooltips or some sidekick character telling us how to jump. It goes into the whole game, from its roots to the entire tips of the branches of the Erd tree. Elden Ring lets us do what we want, go where we want, explore what we want, and allows us to die where we want too, quite frankly. Elden Ring is a true open world. It doesn't feel like we are ticking off a checklist. It doesn't feel like we are playing it exactly like everyone else either. Elden Ring feels like they gave us a big, huge world and said, how do you want to conquer this? Or in many cases, how do you want the world to conquer you? The choices in stat building, what ashes of war you employ, what spells you use, what type of armor you want to wear, what weapons will you try, where do you want to go, what do you want to do, what will you focus on today, what do you want to improve today? It's more than just a vast landscape to explore in Elden Ring. It's a wide open blank canvas that makes the new game plus or starting completely over to try a new build seem like a completely new experience. And people will be playing Elden Ring for many years to come because of all of these freedoms. And it is appreciated and praised by the player base. The industry should take note. When you say it's an open world RPG, give us an open world and give us an open template to make our character. 12 million sales and widely praised reviews, both from critics and the player base, don't lie. It works. And also, we can accept a good butt kicking. The average gamer age has risen, and even the younger generation of gamers appreciate some difficulty. We don't have to feel like literal gods all the time. It's okay to teach us that we are peasants sometimes. The feeling of dread when I realize I'm coming to a major boss, that feeling like it's just out of my reach or ability to defeat an encounter, that drives me and many others to push forward, to not give up. And when we finally conquer it, we feel really good. That's what Elden Ring is all about. Freedom to get your butt kicked, and I tell you, I didn't know I needed that in my life. But facing off against adversity, sometimes what feels like impossibilities, is how we grow as humans, both in real life and also in Elden Ring. And it is a final touch of magic that FromSoft employs on us that drives us to get better and to be proud of our accomplishments and to go forth once again into even more difficult situations. Real quick before we continue, I want to give a major shout out to the members of Napalm. Thanks to their contributions, I can get the equipment and gear that I need to keep this channel ticking, covering MMOs, RPGs, and of course, puppets. If you're interested in becoming a member of Napalm, please click the join button down below. It would be greatly appreciated. And a very special major shout out to the Lords of Napalm. Bounty Code, We Toke Bitcoins, Jared Woodhouse, Daimlos, and Farthest Reach. Thank you for your highest tier membership. Now onto the video. Before Elden Ring launched, I thought it would be a mass hit appeal in sales, but I thought the general public would scorn its difficulty. And although there is some of that, overall, Elden Ring has taught the gaming industry that people like a challenge, and why shouldn't we? Although it sometimes feels unfair, before long you will realize that you are the one that has to improve. Elden Ring doesn't need to bow to your skill level, you need to rise above Elden Ring's skill level. And it's invigorating and refreshing in a sea of AAA titles that want you to beat them. And these are the lessons that I think Elden Ring is teaching the gaming industry. As I said earlier, only time will tell how much of these influences the open world RPG genre takes, but the lessons are there, and the facts are the facts, and the data don't lie. Elden Ring is highly successful in taking the world by storm, and surely that is enough to turn heads and have publishers take note. Now it's your turn. Let me know any other lessons you think Elden Ring is teaching, or how you feel about these. or which one you think is most important for the open world RPG genre, or your experience in Elden Ring so far. I'll be looking forward to reading your comments, and don't forget to hit that like button for more Elden Ring coverage, and if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing for more RPG content, MMOs, JRPGs, CRPGs, and even tabletop RPGs. And until next time, my friends, God bless and happy gaming.